2022. What's good, Blesstie?
It is here.
It's here.
Oh my gosh.
You happy for 2022?
I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see the other side.
Right. 2022 been good to you so far?
So far, so good. And it will be good this year. I am declaring and decreeing that this year will be phenomenal. Okay. It's already started.
Affirmed and confirmed.
It's already here.
It's here.
It's done.
It is.
We are now walking into it.
We're walking into it, and it feels good. I'm happy.
I'm walking.
Hey,
I'm walking.
Hey.
Oh,
okay. Whatever. Y'all weren't feeling that. Okay.
But y'all better be feeling it because we are.
We are walking. We're walking into a very busy season. This is a good year for Black. We're going into a whole year next month.
Next month, it'll be 1 year that Blesstie Convos has been in existence.
Woo! Thank you. And it's been feeling good. Thank you, Blesstie. Thank you for all our audience.
Yes, all our supporters.
Yes.
You know who you are, our OGs, our originals. And all our new supporters. We thank you and welcome you.
We do. Welcome to our crazy world.
Because, you know, we're a little cray-cray, too.
Cray. Yeah. But I'm excited for today because, you know, when we thought about this, about what we were going to do going into the new year, you know, everybody else to be like, new year, new me. And it's like, you don't really get a new you.
You don't.
But you can get a better you.
Yes. So welcome to our first show of the new year, which is New Year, Better Me.
And this is actually episode 3 of season 2. So hey.
Yes. So welcome. So what? You know, on Sundays, many of you don't know. Well, you may know. We have Blesstie Convos, which is our daytime show, even though today
it's a special
time because we had to bring our girl from Toledo, Tasia Watt.
Yes,
with a little fine self.
She is.
With a little fine self.
I mean, beautiful.
She came on down. Wait, down. No, up.
It's
up 75. Up 75 to spend some time with us.
Okay. This evening.
Yeah, so she gonna speak to us a little bit today about what she's doing and where she's going. But we're gonna let her get into that.
So the reason why we thought it would be good to have Taji on here because what you guys will see is that it's actually part 1 of Better New Year, Better Me. And we're talking about being better this year and how do you be better without healing. And so
I mean, that's first. You got to acknowledge.
Yes.
And then you
recognize.
You got to recognize.
Then you got to
repair.
And then you repair.
And then you're going to repeat it.
You're going to repeat that.
Because we're forever evolving.
Yes.
And so we thought it would be excellent to
bring her here.
Tasia to start us off. Okay.
So she is part 1. And you guys are going to see exactly why she needed to be part 1 of it to start it off. We're so excited to have her.
Yes. So, Tasia, we're just going to have you. I know we keep saying your name, but
you're going to
let you introduce yourself. And when you introduce yourself, you also have to tell us what album resonates with you or have resonated with you during
a healing process,
during any healing phase in your life. Okay. And we're going to make sure we answer that too.
Yeah. It can be a song.
It can be a song, an album.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you for making me blush. I'm really happy to be here. So if you guys see me cheese a whole lot or maybe do a little bit of stuttering, it's only because I'm excited.
Yes.
All right, let's just get that out there. And do you want me to answer that question now?
We want you to tell us who you are, where you're from, what you're doing, and then tell us what you listen to heal.
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Tasia Awad. I like to go by Tay, and if you saw how my name is spelled, you'd know why. Okay, so for the most part, born and raised in Toledo, Ohio, inner cities of Toledo, Ohio. Born to a single parent mom of 5 children. And I like to say that, well, my mom used to like to say she grew up with us. So I've had a very interesting life experiences that have brought me to where I am now. I have 4 amazing children, 2 boys, 2 girls. Well, technically 5 because I do count my dog as one of my babies.
Okay.
So I have 5 kids.
Dog mom.
yes. So that's
What's
me.
your children's ages, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, okay. So my oldest is 18. He turned 18 last year, and my youngest is 4 years old.
Oh, that's fun.
Or almost 4.
That's a fun household.
It's interesting. They keep my wheels going.
That's right.
That's right. Okay, so you grew up in Toledo. I think she told us that. And then what do you do?
Okay, so you know what? It's really interesting. So I really honestly just got back in the swing of being a working mom.
Okay.
So just almost 2 years ago. Okay. So before that, I was a stay-at-home mom for about 10 years, almost 10 years. So my life was just dedicated to my family. I'd spent almost 10 years, just working on my craft of being mama.
Okay.
And what got me out here really honestly was not so much the pandemic, but a lot of the stuff that was going on kind of sparked me. I felt compelled and pushed to get back out here and serve my community in whatever capacity that I could. And so I started doing a lot of volunteer work after a lot of stuff that happened with all the mass killings and shootings of unarmed Black men and women. And then that landed me to, then people started recognizing me and remembering that I was a social worker. So that's who I am by trade. I'm a licensed social worker. And so that's how I started working also. So my volunteer work came into, I kind of fell back into the profession all over
Merged.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Taji and I used to work together many years ago. We both worked at a hospital, local hospital, and we worked in the capacity of social work for pregnant women in the community. So that's where our connection lies. In Toledo. So thank you. Now she's here with us because she's going to be talking about melanation after she drop this song or this album.
So what's the song?
We're all about music here too.
I'm happy because I am too.
Okay, we music heads.
It just depends on what time I'm going through. If it's a rough time, with a significant other, or a breakup, or if it's a hard time financially, or I just need to get my motivation back. So there's different songs for different scenarios in my life, but most of my go-tos, I kid you not, most of my go-tos is India Irie. I feel like she is like my sister from another mister. Hey, don't make me break a verse now, because I be in the quiet too.
To India, like right now, for what you feeling, what would you play right now?
She just said it.
Yes, that was a banging
So what
album.
is it?
It's called
It's called Slow Down Baby. I think
Slow Down. Slow Down. Slow Down, baby. Okay.
Yeah. And then everything about her, everything. I Am Not My Hair. I Am Ready for Love. I just love India.
Oh yes, that is.
She has a song for everything.
What you're going through.
Yes, and her albums got me through my whole undergrads. So I got through because
it resonate with you.
I hope you listen in India, girl. We gonna talk one day.
Yes.
Private conversation. It don't have to be public. Nobody else has to know, but we gonna have a conversation. Me, you, Oprah, and a few other people I have on my list. We're going to be talking.
It's going to be us and Oprah with you.
Let's do it.
Oprah
Let's do it.
Because they're our favorite Blesstie.
There you go. There you
Favorite
go. Manifest.
So we are on that. Thank you for sharing that with us. Tasha, what's your favorite song that you listen to when you, what's the best or album?
So my favorite album it's my go-to album, and it's by Fred Hammond, and I believe is Something to Love album. And he has, Brian McKnight, Music Soul Child. It's just he could take you back to old school. He got this jazz little flavor. He got some R&B. He got some I'm gonna make you cry on there. I love Fred Hammond. But that album, along with this Dietrich Haddon album, has helped me through some very, very tough times. I can go on and on by different albums, but I know for sure Something to Love. I think that's the name of the album. Very powerful album. Very, very powerful. How about you, my dear?
That's what I was trying to see what it's called. I remember this album. I have a few, as like everybody else, but this album in particular helped me. I was going through a bankruptcy. I had got cheated on. My car was going crazy at the time. And it's Kurt Franklin, Long Live Love.
Yeah, I remember when that came out.
Yes. And the two songs that I would just play forever is Just For Me and Father Knows Best. And those songs literally helped me get through some of my toughest times that I was going through at that time.
Amen.
For sure.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And like you said, depending on the time.
Yeah, because I got some Mary J, too. I got that Destiny Fulfilled.
Let's do it.
Okay. I got
the situation.
It just depends.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, thank you for that. And thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So, the reason why, one of the big reasons that Taiji is here, she will talk more about the Melanation Project, but I just actually went through a cohort of this support group with an action plan. And so, Taiji, we want you to kind of talk about how you even got to that place. Then we're going to run into what Melanation Project is, and then we're going to close it on out and where it's going. Okay,
where it's going.
So I'm gonna need you to talk to us.
Give us
some background about.
Tell us the why.
The why behind melanation.
When you put that on your status, like when you put that on your the caption.
Yes,
I loved it. I love that.
The what behind the why.
Yeah, let's get
Come
it.
on.
Let's get it.
I love y'all energy. Okay.
It's kind
We love that you love it because for some people they be like, "Wow,
y'all too much."
Yeah.
I'm like,
I love it. No, I'm living for it, first of all. Second of all, you promised me my tissues because it's kind of emotional
honey,
for me
don't
now.
worry. When Miles come back in here, I'm gonna have
Yes,
Miles grab the tissue.
Miles, grab some tissue while you out there, please."
Yes. Our servant is gonna grab the tissues. So, honey, hit us with it because our supporters are ready for this.
Okay, so how Melanation got started. Okay, so like I said before, I had been a stay-at-home mom for pushing 10 years. And so of course I was in my thoughts a lot on the inside, but on the outside everything pretty much was going the way it was supposed to go. I had great friends around me, a great community support system. There was no reason at first for me to engage in any social issues that I did. I saw just like everybody else, even before the killing of George Floyd. So who were those two little boys who were killed years? Yeah, and so
my Aubrey.
So I was just like everybody else. I was seeing certain things, but it didn't hit me the way it hit me when I was just like the rest of the world forced to watch a man slowly die on national television.
Call for his mama.
Call for his mother.
Yes.
That was tough.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't that. A few months before that, my mother had passed away. And just a little backstory about me and my mom. Like I told you before, she was a single parent. She first child at 15 years old, and so she grew up with us. And so my mother and I, we loved each other to death, but sometimes we had a love and hate relationship. Sometimes I felt like she just didn't get me, and a lot of times she felt like I did not get her. And unfortunately, before she passed away, I didn't get a chance to reconcile one of the many arguments that we got into, because we were more like sisters than we were like mother and father. I'm sorry, mother and daughter. But I remember the very last conversation I had with her, which is one of the reasons why she and I was like, okay, well, I ain't talking to you right now. She thought that I had a hard time recognizing where I came from, because see, like I told you, I was I came from the inner city of Toledo. But I always had aspirations to do better and be better. You know, it was a lot of poverty, gang violence, prostitution, single parent moms, just a lot of lack and depression and depravity in the communities that I grew up in. And I just always wanted more.
Absolutely.
And somehow my mother and a lot of other people who knew me interpreted it as something different.
Like you thought you were being better than them?
That. So we just didn't understand one another. The more and more I aspired to do something, the more and more I felt like there was this disconnect between where I came from. And so our last conversation was, she felt like I had a hard time recognizing that I didn't get to where I've been
without being where you,
without people kneeling down so that I could step up.
True.
You know, and then she gave me an example of how I spent the summer in Paris before, and when I was 15, 16 years old. You know, how many kids in the inner city get to spend a summer in Europe? Not just Paris, but Europe. So I traveled to several different countries that summer. And I thought, all I remember is how hard I worked to get there. And then my mom reminded me, she said, you sold as much candy as you could, baby, and it still wasn't enough.
Period.
And she was like, do you know how many people I had to beg and borrow from to get you there just so you can experience something that I can only dream of? And so she just told me it's stuff like that, Tay, that you just don't, you somehow you have become so far removed to the point where you just don't acknowledge you've become so callous about the community you came from, and it didn't register to me then. And so that was the last conversation I had with her. So she died. A few months later, the pandemic came. So here I am, stuck at home in my own thoughts, couldn't get out, did not have any resolve. I couldn't go back to that conversation that I had with her. And then a few months later, after the pandemic, that summer is when all those killings, George Floyd died and things like that. And so I was recalling in my mind the conversations and the arguments me and my mom was having about my complacency and how in so many ways, I was doing a disservice to myself and my children, and even possibly my community and children, people who were looking up to me, because I somehow got disconnected, you know? And so that's where it started. And when all of that stuff came to a head, I kind of came unraveled because most of my life, I felt like I was a victim of my community. You know what I mean? You know, just senseless violence, like that was normalized in my community. And it, you know, anyone who tells you that living in, you know, a gang-infested neighborhood is fun and it's, you know, this or it's that, you don't really live there. You must be watching a movie.
Yeah, it's nothing fun about
there's nothing
kids.
There's nothing fun about being afraid. Your home getting broken into and gunshots, dinner, getting beat up on the street. I told you the story how I was a teenager. I did not want to give a guy my phone number, so he beat me up on spot. You know, I was about 14, 15 years old, so it's the kind of senseless violence. So I was traumatized. I just wanted a way out.
You wanted to get away.
Yeah. So, but when after the George Floyd situation, I was just, I cried for hours and hours. That day, I just got out of the house. I grabbed my kids. We went to the park, and I just walked around the park like a zombie. And I was crying profusely. And I saw this beautiful black young lady playing with her daughter. And I stopped her. And I'm laughing. I'm smiling now, but because I'm thinking in my head, you know, but I was really, you know, hurt at that moment. But I stopped her and I said, I just want you to know that I see you and I acknowledge you. And I'm like, I had so much guilt. I didn't even know how to express how I was feeling, you know? And so even in that day, there were a group of men who were cooking that day, and just everybody seemed like everything was like, oh, this is normal. Like, oh, somebody else got killed. Okay. But it hit me differently.
Yes.
Like, I felt like for the first time, my eyes was open, and I couldn't look away this time.
Yes.
Couldn't make any more excuses. And we had a conversation I had a conversation with the woman and these men, and we all talked about, I'm like, how did all this happen? Why do I feel like I just woke up?
Yes.
Like, what is going on? And the men were just like, this has been going on. Where have you been?
Yes.
You must not be from here. And I'm like, I grew up in the inner city. I don't know. I don't know what this is, you know? And then, and I kept I became more vocal online about, you know, expressing how I was feeling about what was going on. I'm like, I can't be the only person just traumatized by this. And this has never happened. Like, you know, I've always felt safe by the police, you know, so, you know, police have always been kind.
Even when you were in the inner city, did you feel that way, or did you start to feel that way once you moved away?
That was never my experience. And this is the catch to it. I was more afraid of my own people in my community than I was the police. I grew up in a rough area, Rachel. And so and this is maybe hard for a lot of people to hear, but it's hard for you to see the system of injustice and racism when you're in closer proximity to your own people who hurt you.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
I was closer to the Black community, and you know what I mean, closer to the gang, but so that's what I saw. I was traumatized by my community before I even recognized a system. It didn't mean that the system wasn't working against us. I just didn't recognize it until I was an adult.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know,
it was so much going around you that
I wasn't in close proximity to a system. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's why everything seemed so new to me, and so basically, fast forward, I had become more vocal online about how I felt about, you know, these feelings and what can we do about it. I didn't see there was nothing, there didn't seem to be anything out there to help me cope with my trauma. I was telling you earlier, Tarsha, that it had gotten so bad that same summer that George Floyd died, just maybe a month later, I was scheduled to go downtown to go visit my family and to catch a flight. And I canceled it 3 times because I was afraid to go. Because in my mind, I was just like, at this point, I'm not even safe. I can't even, I don't feel like I could even smile. My smile is not even going to get me off because the tension that year was so high.
It was so thick.
The racial tension and the racial, I felt it at the grocery store.
Yes.
I felt it at the coffee shop. I felt the tension and the divide amongst people. And
Very much so.
I broke down the last time I canceled, and I cried, and I told my sister, I can't do it. I'm scared. I don't want to. I don't.
Especially going down south.
Yeah, I was gonna go down south. I'm like, you know, I don't have a plan for myself. And what if my niceness don't work? I've always thought that as long as you're a nice person, cops aren't gonna bother you. You know, people aren't gonna bother you. And I was that Black person who felt like, well, I really think that racism is just not a thing anymore. I mean, I feel like maybe there's racist people, or they're just good people or bad people. I mean, we've come a long way.
Do you feel like you felt that way because of where you were living, or just where, like, your environment, or, you know, what helped you? Because you said you were like in social work or whatever. So,
Isn't
helped?
that a contradiction?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, there's many people in the profession that live a contradiction.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so that's the funny part about it to me, that there's many of us. But really what it is it's conditioning. It's just conditioning. You know what I mean? And once again, when it came to healing, what I had to recognize, and when I was going through my process of healing, I had to recognize how deep my hurt was.
Let's talk about it.
I had to not just, it wasn't just surface level trauma. Oh, you know, what happened to me when I was a kid, what mom and dad did or didn't do when I was a kid. I had to go back and forgive the community that helped create my mom and dad.
Yes.
I had to go back and forgive the systems that put laws and restrictions in place, you know, that restricted my father and my mother. I had to go deep, 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 deep down and forgive a religion that I love, that in this United States of America that was used to violently promote slavery. It was a lot of deep forgiveness.
Yes.
I had to face it, and I had to recognize it. In which it was really hard. You know what I mean?
What kickstarted that? Like, what made you say, this can't be surface, I have to go deeper? What made you say that that's what you had to do?
I started doing research.
Okay.
And I started because I wanted to know. I needed to educate myself because I felt so lost in the sauce. I didn't. You will be surprised how many Black people don't know the truth about us. Like when I hear a lot of talk shows and stuff, I hear people say, "Well, Black people been taught. No, it's a whole lot of stuff we didn't know.
Come on now.
We were conditioned the same way white America was to believe. You know, we taught from the same textbooks. And my mom used to tell me all the time when I was a kid. I used to be so excited when I learned things about history. I liked history when I was younger. And my mom she was like so not impressed. And she used to be like, okay, sweetie, the real history is outside of the school. And if you really want to know the truth, sweetheart, you got to wait until you finish your education.
Yes.
Then you'll really get
Yes.
educated.
Yes.
I never knew what she meant until all of this stuff happened.
A friend of mine, one of my coworkers, he is from a different country, and he come from a Nigerian father and a Caribbean mother, and he was bred and raised on this history of our people. And he's always, Tarsha, I don't understand. Well, why weren't your parents teaching you guys? Why don't you guys know this information? I said textbooks didn't have that type of information. And some of us being in single parent homes, our parents, that information wasn't even passed down to them. So how could they teach us this information?
And then think about this. When we got our freedom, we lived from trauma to trauma to trauma. We only know survival. And when you're in survival mode, you're taught when you're
that's passed down for sure.
We're pros at surviving.
Honey.
We are pros, okay? We know how to take a licking and keep on ticking. Come on now, I got 9 lives.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we might have 20.
Yeah.
I was about to say 9 extended.
Come on. We know how to live.
It's for sure.
Yes, but when we live in survival mode, we don't have that space and that time to get to even be curious about the truth.
Come on.
We're not even curious because I'm just trying to survive another day. I just want, like my mom used to be like, I just need you to graduate high school. I just need you to be sufficient. I just need you to just not have a baby before
15. Please make it past 15.
Just make it past me.
Yes.
It's
my
so
parent, my mom.
our goals were very minimal for each other. And then you can talk about Black excellence and the Black elite. We do have Black excellence, but then there's access that go with that.
Yes.
If you don't have the resources and the access to be afforded what people who that the very small percentage of African American elites have, you won't know this. And I kid you not, as I was doing some research, I stumbled across Dr. Joy DeGroy's book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome.
Oh my gosh, y'all.
That's what started my journey. And I was also looking online for like healing, because when we worked at the hospital, that was one of the things that I did. I worked for a grant, and it was my baby, and so we did healing circles for women, and so I wanted something like that. I'm like, I need the healing now. I need a healing circle specifically designed for Black women who, like, I need to see myself in other people. Does anybody else know what I'm going through? And it felt like they didn't, and so there was this healing circle that that is national. No, actually, it's international, and they had everything except for what was going on right now. I'm like, you don't have anything for healing circles for how we can heal from this racial trauma. So that's when I start doing my research, and then that's when I started my own. Like, I'm gonna go get my own healing. I don't have time to wait, because I am not. First of all, when we're living in trauma, we don't show up our best selves. Because what happened right after the George Floyd, there was also a lot of political tension, and then people bashing other people for voting this way or voting that way, or not voting at all.
Type of crazy stuff.
On top of COVID.
On top of COVID, and people are just traumatized by so many different multiple events. And I was thinking to myself, how can we focus when we're traumatized?
Yeah.
I've got to find a safe place to heal, baby. I'm hurt at this point. I don't care about what's going on in politics when I feel like my life is threatened.
Yes.
And so that's what transpired, me creating safe spaces to heal from the recurrence of racial trauma. Because everything that happened within the last 4 years, it's a residual effect of racial trauma. And unfortunately, those who get hit the hardest and first are African Americans. You know what I mean? It's a part of our history. It is a part of our history. And when I was studying and when I was learning, and then I have to say also, because God has really, really blessed me. He knew that I needed help. I was falling apart. And I believe God kept sending angels in my life just to, first of all, just console me and to not, feel so guilted by me being not just a victim, but a perpetrator.
Come on with
okay?
Tell the truth. Tell
them how we do the same thing.
Oh my goodness, you don't want to go there, because we are absolutely, as in the African American community, we do perpetuate the same behavior that has been placed on us. And so
for sure,
it is really, for me on my healing journey, I had to recognize myself. It started with me. I had to recognize
accountability, how
I perpetuated certain things on Black and brown people, my people, because I had this inner dialogue of self-hate within myself that I was taught. We're taught it. Make no mistake about it. Jim Crow did an excellent job at making sure that we hated ourselves and we hated one another. So it worked exactly the way it was supposed to work. And
racism within a race is very real.
There you go. And so I had to come to grips with how I have perpetuated the cycle. You know what I mean? And so, but like I was saying, God placed beautiful people in my life. Alicia Sutton was one of them.
That's my boo.
And I say, she saw me on, like I say this all the time.
She'll be on in February.
Yes. And I can't wait, because I just talked to her last night. We be having some dope conversations.
She's amazing.
Yes. she found me online because I was online. I'm just playing, but I was acting a fool. I was coming undone. And so I'm posting on social media, and I'm just laying my heart on the line. Like, something ain't right. Where have I been?
You cut your hair off?
Chopped all. I'm like, no, don't nobody got time for no hair.
Right.
I don't care.
Yes.
I'm telling you, like, I was coming a little unraveled. I talked to my longtime mentor, kind of like a mentor to me, but an old professor, and I was telling her about my my journey and how I was feeling. But I was telling her I'm still hurt. I don't know where to go. I don't know who to turn to. And she said, that's where it starts. So it was this professor also who just encouraged me. She was just like, a lot of businesses and a lot of ministries, is birthed through pain, and she was like, you don't have to have it all together right now. You just have to open the door and and initiate the way.
Yes.
You and be honest and transparent about the fact that you're finding your own way like everybody else. And that's when I got my cue. I'm like, okay, it may look a little messy in the beginning,
But let's do it.
but let's create just yes. And you that's what she said. She said you perfect it as you go. If you wait for perfection, you will never start. You know, people do need this. People do need help. People are traumatized, and you know, you pray about it and you figure out a way to create that space for people. So like Alicia Sutton, and then I have Daishelle Parker, and then I have my beautiful sisters. Yes,
Alicia just gave you some hugs.
Yes, I have you guys. I'm not an expert. I have people around me who have been in the game, like my sister. I have to give my sister a shout out. Arms, Tajanique McNeil. These are people who were behind the scenes, helping me on my healing journey before I got started. And I told you in the car, like a lot of these people, they have no clue how pivotal they were in my healing process. That empowered me. You know, I remember when the riots and the protests had kind of like subsided, and I had this conversation with Alicia, and she was just like, basically, okay, so you gonna bow out now? Like that's like everybody else do.
What you doing?
People, she said, that's what they do. They ride the wave, and so then when it calmed down, then you want to go back to business as usual, never fixing the issue. And so, people like her and that my sister and Shelly, they were challenging me, like, okay, are you going to be a part of the fad, or are you really trying to be a part of change?
That's what it is. That's what people do. They want, it's a money grab.
It's a money grab.
And you know, then it's like, oh, it's hot, and then it goes right back.
You see what's going on, all these healing circles, all these. But what I'm noticing, and I'm not in any way tooting my own horn because I can't. But I recognize how much of, you know, it's just natural. People want to use it as a moment, but are you really trying to change people? You know what I mean? And are we really trying to help the Black community? You know, because when I was just talking to Alicia again about this coded language and how we continue as Black people we still hurt one another, and we still keep that division that we were conditioned to do for one another. Even in our healing circles that we're creating, because I'm noticing a lot of healing circles pop up, but then they're saying, oh, for the Black professionals.
It's like Mean Girl.
Oh, yes. You know,
it's still separate.
It's still separate. So then where do I fit in?
Right. So I don't have a healing because I'm not a professional.
Yeah, because I don't
need healing.
And then what constitutes the Black professional?
Yeah. What makes you,
you know, so
it continues to be racism within the race.
It's internalized racism. We continue to project that on one another. So what are we really doing? So if there's anybody out there who are having healing circles, please keep that in mind.
Keep them open.
Keep it open, and I'm just giving you a perfect illustration of how we perpetuate the same behavior. If you really want to see healing and you really want to see growth, you really got to do some self-checking.
I am a witness. I can attest that I was a part of this last cohort of the Melanation Project, and I read this post-traumatic slave syndrome book, and I was just thrown. I mean, it was so shocking to read some of the history behind us. It was hurtful. I mean, just extremely hurtful. I was like, I've been living under a rock, and I know some stuff. But I was living under a rock. I did not know some of that, and it was so painful that if I would not have had that circle of women to take that information back to, and not just a circle of women, a safe place, because I was able to share my true thoughts, share my heart at that time, cry, you know what I'm saying, and then get that support, and then get that accountability, have those accountability partners to say, okay, now what we gonna do? How you gonna heal? How does this how does this affect you and your family? What are you going to do at this point in time? You know, and it made me really think about that. We weren't putting a Band-Aid on it. We were saying, hey, let me check some stuff. Let me think about, well, dang, my mom went through this. Okay, yes. Well, now I understand that she was only doing the things that her mom and her dad, and then no telling what went on in their history, you know, and now it can trace back to slavery and before then.
I have a question. Do you guys think that it's like where you grow up at, why you don't get a true history of it? Because like growing up in Detroit, and I had teachers who truly taught us Black history. They went beyond the book. Like we had teachers who taught us slavery. I mean, like outside of it. So, I mean, I hear, like I knew Tasha when she came to Detroit, she was like, some of the stuff I did not know because I didn't grow
Black
up.
people. Like, I'm like, who was Thurgood Marshall?
Yeah, where
like,
she didn't grow up
what?
in Detroit. She grew up in California, but when she came here, it was a little different for her where I had to do Black History reports growing up. I had to know my history. My father was from the South, so we talked about a lot more stuff in our home. So I'm just asking, do you sometimes think that it can be just the ignorance of
The community?
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. I think it's and also.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's whatever you have access to. If you have access to that history,
Yeah.
Even if
people who grew up in California, my mom has a nephew who she calls so woke. I mean, he's woke. He even changed his religion, everything, but he's a Californian. Born and raised. It was just the access. But he was a 70s baby, so it might be
a little
different than my 16-year-old mommy, you know, having me and trying to navigate life. So that wasn't something that was just spoon-fed. Then growing up in a very diverse community, Black history was Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't going beyond that because we had to split that with Cesar Chavez and all these other people that we got to celebrate.
Absolutely, yeah. I think from my personal experience, my family grew up. My family, I know that my mom's family is from the South. They're from Arkansas. And my great grandparents helped my mother raise us, and they were only once removed from slavery. Their parents were sharecroppers and slaves and picked cotton, and so they were only once removed. But they never talked about our history, and sometimes it also isn't talked about because of the trauma behind it.
For sure.
All I knew is that my great grandfather's family. My great grandfather's mother was brutally beaten and abused by her master, and she would come home and brutally abuse her children. And sometimes history is just triggering.
Like it's so triggering.
It's triggering, and so some people just shy away from it, and I prefer you to give my child the watered down version because I don't want my kids to be traumatized like how I was. So I think it's a lot of factors, but at the end of the day, just like Dr. Joy DeGroy says, you have to know the whole truth to get to healing and reconciliation. You have to know the whole truth. And that goes for white people. That goes for non-Black people of color. There is no real reconciliation without having honest dialogues about the truth. And the reason why we do it in a collective form is because it's so heavy. I don't think your average person will be able to handle the truth about America.
What?
I couldn't handle it.
It was a paragraph in there that said they hung this couple, these white people, ambushed them, took them out, hung them, set them on fire. The mother was pregnant with a baby, cut her down, split her stomach open. The baby, and then they stumped the baby, killed
It's
it
a true
there.
story.
I died.
True story.
I just cried for hours. Like, do you know how heavy that has to be? Or hard? I mean, it's just it's so horrific for you to do something, and then on top of that, cut the body parts up and was selling them for quarters.
That's what they did.
On a Sunday morning after church. Okay, so there's a lot we have to. Okay, so let's can we all take just a deep breath?
Just a deep.
Okay, and let's exhale.
Okay.
Okay, because the history is here to teach us,
Yes.
not for us to digress. That's why I recommend reading as a collective and
Yes.
a collective with other people who can support you and pull you back out of that trigger, because your triggers can be teachers if you let them.
Yes.
And the goal is for us to show up better. Our goal is not, Dr. Joy DeGroy did not write the book for us to hate white people.
And that's why I say that it was a blessing to have them there. So when I reported back each Saturday that I can share that information, and then they say, hey, let's bring it back around. Now, what can we do about this? How can we forgive our ancestors, then our great-grandparents, then our parents, ourselves?
You have to.
How can we get to that place?
Yes.
So,
Yep, you need it. You need it. You can't do it. You can't do it alone. And I think it's masterfully written.
It is.
And it's very much so needed.
That's the title of the book, so you can share, because we keep talking about it.
It's Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGroy.
Can you show it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say show it so that they can see. Yep.
Yep. So lift it up.
Right there. Y'all see it?
Yep.
Yes.
And it comes with a study guide as well.
Yep. And so this is what we do. We meet as a collective, and we don't just read the book. We do have our meditation. We have our time of meditation. We incorporate mindfulness in it. It is very strategic on how we embrace this journey.
Support group with an action plan.
Yes. So we don't just sit and we don't just vent, and we do our crying. We say whatever we need to say. But there's an action plan that follows up. How do you want to show up afterwards? Because at this point in our lives,
important.
Yes. And this is another reason, a sidebar, we're starting with, we chose to start with Black women in mind, is because when you look at the statistics, as dope as we are, as amazing as we are, we have a lot of things that ride against us, and it's not because of anything that we do, but it's specifically because of our race,
of who we are,
and of who we are. And especially when you look at the infant mortality rate.
Oh yes,
people can say overall the mortality rate has gotten better in the United States, but why is African American women consistently at the bottom, consistently struggling, consistently losing their lives or their child's lives at an alarming rate?
Yes.
So
I went to one of my doctors and told him I was having a problem. He laughed at me. We
just watched we watched the film, and
he like, oh, you're fine.
Do you know how many?
I'm like, excuse me.
And it's because of what they're taught. I mean, people don't even talk about the fact that what was in what are in medical books. They say that they're doing things to eliminate certain things that have been placed in the medical books that were racist and towards black people. For example, black people don't have the same type of pain tolerance as
they didn't even
white
give
people.
us
Like our high,
They
so
talk about
that was in that. I mean, up until recently, that is what the medical community has been taught about us. So when you go and you say I'm in pain, their studies have shown, their books tell them, oh, she can't be in pain because
studies are showing slavery times that our women didn't get any type of.
We did experiments on it.
Yeah, when we were having babies and things, they didn't give us any type of pain, nothing. I'm sorry, what am I doing? No, my finger. But they didn't give us anything. White women were more comforted when they were going through child labor, but when Black women were doing it, I mean, so it's been since slavery that they have been treating us like this.
Okay, and so what do you say to because I hear a lot of this all the time when we have this topic of what happened back in the day. I hear Black people say it, and I hear white people say it. I hear all kinds of people say it. Why are you talking about the past? That stuff like that doesn't happen anymore.
It's still happening.
You're just making people relive trauma by writing books like this or watching movies like this, and it does us a disservice. And my answer to that is the reason why is because like you said, it is still happening, and then not only that. we're not walking in true freedom and true healing, and things that are not addressed will just continue
to keep happening.
You see what's going on. They're trying to pass laws and things of that nature to get anything of Black history erased. You know,
we have people, I mean, they just introduced in one of our school districts here in Michigan, Black Lives Matter into one of the curriculum, and they literally just had parents outraged, like, keep that out of our school district. It's a predominantly white school district. They don't even want that it was stemmed from the social injustices that we just are experiencing, and they are outwardly saying we don't want to keep that out of our system. So it's like, definitely
because they acknowledge
they got that. I think that when it comes to white supremacy and white privilege and things like that, they have their own battles to fight, and I am empathetic towards it. I have. You know, when I started this journey, I lost a lot of white friends because I, for a long time, stayed on for the most part, religious, conservative, you know, side. And that's all I hung around. And so when my eyes became open for the first time, a lot of people told me I was doing the devil's work. And, you know,
real quick.
Oh yeah.
She used to be
I wasn't. Yep, that racism was not real. That it's this is the devil. You know, this is the enemy. Don't believe what you're hearing. Please don't engage in that. And so I lost a lot of friends, but I do have a couple of little speckles of white friends left. So I care. I'm an empath, so I see their struggle.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. I see their struggle, but so they have their own issue, and a really good book for that is White Fragility. You know, that perfectly explains what they're going through. They don't, you know, so a lot of them are not ready to deal with their own trauma and guilt, and guilt. So, which is, you know, so I'm not shocked. But we got to keep talking about it, and we got to keep creating spaces. And so, and like I said, so when you create spaces for people to get the truth and get the healing they need, they show up better. They're more clear-minded. Now I can focus on, our community's political needs. Now I can focus on my community because I have resolved the matter of the past, you know, and I'm okay with it. It's become a learning lesson for me. I'm not mad at anybody because I was just as much of a perpetrator as I was a victim of it,
right.
You know, and I realized that we're all caught in this cycle. You know, this cycle of hurt and pain overall. And at the end of the day, what it's really about, the more healing I pursue and that I achieve, I recognize that it's about power and influence.
I was going to ask you that because we've been talking a lot about this, and we were talking about these groups, but I want you to share with our viewer how you've created these spaces and how they can be involved in these spaces that Tasha, one of the groups that, you know, support.
That's a great question. Thank you for asking me that. Okay, so we do have an online group, and so it's a Facebook group. It's the Melanation Women's Healing Project. But if you go to the Melanation Healing Project, you can still request to be a part of the group. It's a private group because our healing is sacred.
Yes.
And so we want to honor one another's healing journey by keeping it personal and keeping it private. So yeah, like I said, you can go to the Melanation Women's Healing Project. We just finished the last cohort that Tarsha was a part of.
And have another one coming up.
Yes, and now this is how it's been going typically, okay? Because we're still a baby.
Okay.
This is how it's been going. After we do our 9 weeks, a 9-week cohort, then we take a quarter off because then we shift. We have 4 phases of healing. So the first one is receiving healing. That is the personal healing cohort that we participate in, and then phase 2 is to give healing, and that's the mentorship part of it. That's what people graduate to. But then we have that phase 3 is community healing, and so we exemplify that through community dialogues using our podcast platform. So we do have a Melanation Healing Project podcast, and we are going on season 3. And let me tell you how dope this is and how much the community wants it. It started off with me and a couple other people, and now it's to the point where I don't even have to be a part of it anymore. Like, they've completely use their own creative space to, you know what I mean? Because anyone who participates and they complete the 9-week cohort, if they want to continue volunteering, they are called co-creators, because you bring your own creative juice and you make it what it is. As long as you stick to the mission and the core values of Melanation Healing Project, you are considered a co-creator, because it takes more than one person to receive that healing. So we do have that coming up. So after we get our podcast going, then we'll do another round. So it's not going to happen again until the spring.
Okay.
But in that meantime, we are still maintaining our relationships with the people who were a part of the group. So we have stuff online in our private group that we do, and then we encourage the community to follow us on the podcast and listen to the conversations.
How can they do that?
It's on all major podcasting platforms. It's the Melanation Healing Project podcast.
Okay,
yep.
I hear that.
Yep, and so
we'll tag that in our.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Yep, and so the last phase of healing, which has not started yet, that is it's something special and something juicy. So
this is the 4th phase, right?
Yeah, this is the 4th phase, but we're waiting until we get enough people to graduate to go ahead and launch it. So we have a lot of new people coming in on the scene, and they want to be a part of Melanation and to add their flavor to it and to bring healing to their families and to their communities. We have people online from South Carolina. We have people from different parts of Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Georgia. Columbus, Ohio, Georgia. So our community online family has become quite close, and it's lit. We have a great, honest dialogue, and we love on one another, because that's another thing that we lack in the community is support from one another. So we are also we've become a support system to one another. So when somebody is sick or something like that, we'll send flowers on behalf of Melanation. So like these are things that are really important, you know. So we teach one another how to network. And all of this honestly is part of healing. You know, it's not just getting the history and stuff like that. It's full healing and wellness.
Yes.
You know, well, like she said, with an action plan, we follow it up with what are you going to do to move forward? How are you going to interpret the lessons that you've learned? And another theme that's woven throughout it, I want to add, is forgiveness.
Yes.
Forgiveness, the process. It is a process, and it is a strategic process that's woven throughout each session that brings us towards a step closer towards full healing and an experience in that, and experiencing ourselves in a better way. Women predominantly in the United States make up majority of the households. So technically they are the gatekeepers of their children. And so if you have healthy mamas, you will have healthy
babies for sure. Yep. That's the fact.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. So what's next for Melanation Healing? Like what are you doing? Like what's next for you guys?
Okay. For Tasia.
Yeah.
What you got?
Okay, so there is I will be speaking for Queens Village about Melanation. So kind of more so to the community, to just let people know that we're out here, and just kind of like what I'm doing right now. And that's on the 27th, I believe, and it's virtual. Yep, 27th, and it's virtual. So I can provide a link for you guys to that.
Please do.
For anybody who want to be a part of it and to hear more about it.
And so it's open to everyone, correct?
Well, we are going to figure that out. This upcoming Friday, we'll be working everything out.
Some information.
So because I'm a part of Queen Village as well, we'll make sure that information, if it is open to everyone, because we haven't decided, because we just shifted to the virtual, because it was going to be an in-person event, then we'll make sure we release that link to everyone.
We'll get that to you guys.
Yep.
You brought some goodies, because she is an author, you guys.
Yes.
She is an author. Come on, put it out there.
Yes. Okay, so this book, I republished it back in September. It's Power, Influence, Prayer, and Fasting. And so this is also...
in this camera right there. Yeah.
You can get this on Amazon, and this was also a part of my healing journey. I was really big into the church, and I had to go through some healing as it relates to the church and racism. And I came to the conclusion that it comes down to power, influence, prayer, and fasting, and we all have a position that we play in one of those fields, and it's how you use it.
Yes.
That makes all the difference in the world. I saw a lot of abuse of power from 2020 to 2021.
For sure.
And I wanted to write a book about what God says about power. What is it for? What happens when we abuse power? What government is really in place for? And I used the story of Hadassah, who was Queen Esther, as a great example of power being demonstrated in a moral fashion. And so we can fashion our lives after that.
You guys can get that on Amazon. Hold that up one more time for them.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We just thank you
I
so
can't believe
much.
it's been an hour already. I mean, man.
Get it in, get it out.
Yeah, I mean, but we just thank you for this exclusive.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We just love
I'm
you so
honored.
much.
I'm honored.
We thank you for blessing us and blessing our supporters.
Yes.
And you guys, if you're interested in the Melanation Project, you know it'll be rolling out in the spring. You can follow Tajia at
Instagram, Facebook. We're on Twitter, Melanation Healing Project. We always have content that we're posting, and then we'll be doing something different, like doing movie nights that's related to Black women specifically for our private group, and other videos and things and questionnaires and things like that. So we have some fun stuff. So just keep following us, and you'll see all the goodies we have.
We have them tagged in a lot of our promotions that we did for this show, and we'll make sure that we'll tag them again for so you guys that we post the link.
Look for some future collabs from Blessed Friends and Melanation.
Absolutely.
And many others that we have on the show, because it's
so
all
many.
about connection and sharing these
Networking.
resources, because we all want healing. We all want others to be
We all
healed,
deserve
and we all
healing.
deserve it.
Yes.
New year, better
me.
better.
So join us next week.
Yes.
We're back at our regular time at 3:15. We have Dr. Derek Coleman coming on, and we are excited to share him with our viewer as well, our supporters.
We have an event the end of this month.
On the 28th, right?
On the 29th, January 29th. That'll be a collaboration with Tame Beauty and Blessed Friends.
It's Monies and Mimosas.
Money and Mimosas. We have advertisement out there now.
Yep. Make sure you guys come out, and we only got 25 seats.
Yep,
so
only 25 seats. So we'll be sending that out. Thank you so much. Anything last words? Any last words?
Any last words?
No, just if you are interested in doing a melanation, being a facilitator, you can reach out to me, inbox me on Facebook if you want to actually.
Definitely in there.
We need that for sure. We gotta bring that to the
Even
city.
in Detroit, absolutely. Detroit needs some melanation.
We
healing.
do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I got you.
So thank you again, everyone,
Thank you.
who have tuned in for this episode of
Blesstie Convo.
Convo. Hey.